we had a consciousness shift, and we began to shift our consciousness into these lower frequencies that we could overcome these things. Jesus said he descended far below all things that he might ascend far above all things. And he conquered these principalities, powers, dominions, and lordships, which were these demonic cherubim. The Bible says that the cherubim fell from heaven. In the mountain of God you proved to be. But he wanted to raise his throne above the stars of our Father in heaven, above the Elohim, and to become like the Most High. Through pride he fell. This is that serpent that was in the garden. And what is that serpent? That serpent is that carnal nature that's wrapped around our spine. It's the DNA that's got this helical spin that all the universe in a mathematical symmetry is designed after. It's that evolution of life and the natures and the attributes and the consciousness level just grows and adds experience. You see, from one cell to the other, experiences is put onto the cell. On the cellular level, it gains experience and knowledge, and it grows. Over periods of time, you can mate certain animals and breed them and develop certain attributes. This is why polar bears in the northern climates where there's a lot of snow are all white. Because the genetic code begins to change and they turn white. And below the snow line, they're all black. Grizzly bears and polar bears are the exact same species, but they're beginning to diverge in their colors. We humans are just humans, and we're growing and evolving, and our DNA is growing and learning, and we're going through all of these subtle bodies and overcoming all of these attributes and gaining these attributes and overcoming these forces. We're ascending down through all of these carnal forces, which is represented by the River Jordan that we're baptized into, which is the lowest river on earth, in the lowest area on this earth, the carnal earth. So we've got to go down through these powerful forces that are represented as water and get baptized and immersed into these carnal frequencies. Now, if you notice, this, remember I told you the three pyramids, there's three of them, and that represents the Orion's belt. So you remember the story that we talked about where Osiris was chopped up into 13 pieces. Well, he was put in the coffin and he was sent down the river Nile. Okay, well, the Nile River goes down through Egypt, and on the side of the river Nile is those three larger pyramids which represent the Orion's belt. Well, if you get back and look at the sky, you see that all those little pyramids represent one of those stars, and that Nile River represents the Milky Way. Have you ever gone out in a very, very dark night where it's very clear and you could look up and see all the stars? And when you do, you look up there and you see this beautiful Milky Way. A lot of you have never seen that. If you live in the cities, you're just looking up in the sky and you see a few stars here and there, but you don't get to see it brilliant enough to see that Milky Way. Where's a concentration of stars that go down the middle of the sky. And that's called the Milky Way, or the River Styx. And that's where we get carried down the Milky Way, down the Nile, chopped up into these 12 bodies, or 13 bodies, because we've got to be sent out into the universe and experience all these different forces down the Nile, and then be gathered again. Well, remember I told you if you get back up and you look and you'll see that all the pyramids in that area represent one of the stars. And those three larger pyramids represent Orion's belt. And if you make a straight line down those three pyramids, you come to a place called Heliopolis. Well, in the Bible that's called the city of On. And Joseph, when he went into Egypt, became the high priest of On. See, that is Anu, the temple of Anu on Cyrus. Because if you follow the Orion's belt straight with those three pyramids, you come to Sirius. That was the home, the original home of Anu. Because you see, a lot of people think that Nibiru is a planet in our solar system, and really it's not. It's the planet of the crossing. It crosses into our solar system only once every 3,600 years, but it doesn't crash into us. See, what it is that we're within the gravitational pull of Sirius. We are not part of that solar system, but we're very close. And the outer planets, the outer planet of Sirius, when it goes by, comes very close to our solar system, so they can experience our sun in vibrations and energies at that point. See, we're more or less, our sun is more or less a planet or an object in the rotational gravitational pull of Sirius. And Nibiru, it says in there in the Sumerian tablets, goes in an opposite direction of all the other planets, right? Its elliptical orbit is not the same as ours. Let's say ours are going around like this, well, it's going around like this. And let's say ours are going around like this, well, it's going around the other way. So you see, it's not part of our solar system per se, it's part of the Sirius star system. We're part of it too. But it's just like in our system, we've got planets, then we've got moons, all right? Well, Sirius has planets and then moons. And then it's such a huge star, it has twin stars. And our star is a twin binary, actually it's a triple star system. Because there's Sirius A, there's Sirius B, and we're Sirius C. We're part of this. And so there's some sort of a crossing of these planets that are intermingled with this because of this triple star system. So Anu is actually considered to be, or Nibiru is actually considered to be a part of Sirius, and we are too. And this is where the confusion comes in. It's not really a planet revolving around the sun. It's a different elliptical orbit. It's not really the same as... actually, this is why, if you look up in the sky, you'll see these crazy things called comets. They're not part of our solar system. They just come in through once in a while, every so often at a certain time. So they think, well, I guess it's got an elliptical orbit, which is not in the same pattern and everything. It's way out there. And it goes way out there and comes back. No, that's not what's going on. It's an optical illusion. Here we are, our solar system going like this. And then here's another system going like this. And ever so often, say this thumb is one of their planets. Ever so often, that thumb kind of goes by and we see it. And it's an optical illusion. It looks like that's a comet or something. What's really happening is it's a planet in the Sirian system. So you see, Nibiru is kind of like a comet then. It's a planet. Now, we call it comets, but it's a planet. In fact, it's about 4 times larger than the Earth. And it circles around in a very normal way around Sirius. But every so many years, every 3,600 years, Nibiru comes around and comes in close contact with, in the area of Pluto, in our planet. Or actually about 1 light year out. So, the thing of it is that the gods, the 12 gods, were 12 males and 12 females, or the 12 gods of Olympus. Same thing. These stories all talk about the same thing. And these 12 gods are the 12 cherubim, the angels. And our Father in heaven ruled that it would be for our good rather than for our evil. Because through the plan of destiny and through the plan of fate, he caused certain things to work for good for those who love him. It says that in the book of Romans. All things work for good to those who love our Father in heaven. And so, our Father in heaven put a note by Enki's bed. Now remember, it's Jehovah who made man in the Garden of Eden. And it's Jehovah who made the serpent in the Garden of Eden. And that is the genetic code that's wound around that tree. And that was made by Enki Ea. That's Jehovah. And so, now, if you want to understand this a little better, just take a look at, so you got the 12 gods, you see. Now, who are they? They're the 12 natures that are in those cherubim. It's those 12 that came into the earth and partook of the flesh. And they're going to come out and be regathered. We talked about how the 12's got to be regathered. What does that mean? It means that the gods came to the earth and incarnated into the human form, into the human genome, and went down into Egypt, or went down into the physical carnal realm. And they are taking with them into this realm these attributes of the eagle and the man and the lion and the bull. And all the other attributes of the 12 zodiacal archaeological or astrological signs. And they brought them down into the earth. This was all planned by our Father in heaven. When they came here, they put all 12 of their attributes within the human being. And their attributes were put into ours. So we're man that's on the earth. We're the physical body, the house. And their genome and their attributes and character into human beings. And they're going through this long night. And now we're almost down to the harvest, when it's going to be reaped and the gathering of Israel is going to happen. You see, now I talked a lot about Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith, he said, well, a lot of people are asking me, well, what did he do? And you say he's a prophet, so what? What did he do? They killed him and he's gone now. Well, what he did was he brought the keys for the regathering of Israel. Now, you remember he died in 1844. And just before he died, he sent people over to Israel to pray and to open up for the restoration of Israel. And he went not just to Israel, but he went to America and prayed and with certain keys that were given to him by Elijah and other keys that were given to him by Peter and James and John. He opened up a dispensation in 1844 for the opening up of the establishment of Zion, which is this kingdom, and the Constitution, and for the liberty and the justice, and for the gathering of all of the ancient wisdom and knowledge. And so, as soon as just before he died, a guy comes over from Egypt and hands him an Egyptian tablet, and he interprets it and translates it. And that's called today, in the Doctrine and Covenants, the Pearl of Great Price. It's the book of Abraham and the book of Moses. And this was Egyptian writing, hieroglyphic writing, that Joseph Smith was allowed to translate as a sign that these Egyptian and Sumerian ancient writings were going to be opened up. And soon as Joseph Smith died, and he put that into motion and was given those keys for this last dispensation, boom. Right around that time, right around 1845, 1850, they started digging up all of these ancient records from Sumeria and Egypt, and Akkadians and all of these ancient cuneiform and Ugaritic texts, and they started bringing them forth. Well, it took years and years and years to learn how to translate these things, but they started being brought back from the earth. And of course, Joseph Smith translated the golden or the copper plates that were the history of the ancient American Indian. And from the time that he translated these plates, he began to bring up from the past the ancient wisdom of the lost tribes. See, this is the ancient wisdom of these 12 gods who came into the earth to put their genome and attributes into the human species for an evolutionary process to begin, so that when it was all over, we would gather these pieces back and gather the 12 tribes from all the places that they had gone. And the book of Revelation says, and he looked, and behold, it was a great multitude which no man could number, out of every nation, every tribe, and every tongue. So it doesn't matter what your race is. This is not a racial thing. You see, there are all kinds of attributes and natures and races. And they all began there, and it was put into our gene from the very beginning there in the Garden of Eden. It was Enki Ea, who created this garden. It was Jehovah, who created that serpent that deceived Eve, which is those attributes and natures that fell into this ignorance. And so that serpent really is the ego. It really is the carnal nature of our flesh wound around our spine. And the laws that Moses gave us to keep us enslaved are basically a type of the physical laws of the universe that enslave us into the physical realm. But through this enslavement, through this coming into this temple, down through the king's chamber and the queen's chamber. Remember, the king's chamber points to the Orion belt. And a lot of people saying, well, those are the serpent people. They're what do they call them? Reptilians. Okay. And this is going around. Everybody thinks that there's literally some creatures. And then they're showing pictures of some of these aliens that got big eyes and they kind of look reptilian. And see, and I've explained to you that these are not highly advanced beings that you're seeing. They're not so stupid. They're so highly advanced They're going to crash in our desert and get caught and, and we're going to dissect them and everything. They'd come down here and wipe us out in a second if we were tampering with their brothers and sisters. They know where their ships are. They don't come down here in person like this on a ship. See, you don't fly on a ship from here to Orion, which is 1,000 light years away. You do this through a wormhole. Even the book of the Sumerian tablets talk about this ninth gate that they have to enter through to get here. But it's very uncertain as to what that means. But all we do know is that they are watching over this realm, and destiny and fate is having a hand in all of this. And the gods of Olympus are the same 12 gods that are in the Sumerian pantheon. And the story of that is found with Jacob. Remember now, Jacob had the 12 sons, right? These represent the 12 natures. If you look at Israel when they went into the land and conquered the land, they divided them up into groups. Remember when they were meeting Esau, they were going to have this big battle, and Jacob was afraid Esau was going to kill them all. Well, he put the slave girls in front and his precious Joseph, right, and Benjamin in the back. Because you see, that was from his most favorite wife, Rachel. And so she was put in the back so that if anything happened and they got into a big fight, they could survive. And he put Bilhah and Zilpah, his handmaidens, and their children in the front. But when they made their camp and they went through into Canaan to conquer the land, they put the 12 tribes around in these camps. And each one had an animal sign, and it was the astrological signs. So each one of these tribes represents one of these astrological signs or one of the gods, or the natures of the gods, and have gone into our genome that we're experiencing, that's growing and evolving in us. And so, Jacob has two wives, Rachel and Leah. But Leah has like 4 kids, and then she can't have kids anymore, so she gives her handmaid, and then she has 2 kids. And Rebecca has 2 kids, and then she can't have kids anymore, so she gives another handmaid, and there's another 2 kids. So the 12 sons of Jacob don't all come from one woman. They come from 4 women. This is exactly the story in the Sumerian tablets. Remember, Enki has, when he's creating human beings, he's going to bring the 12 natures down into man in that genetic code. He mixes his DNA, his sister's DNA. Now remember, some of these people in there, if you read in there, there's certain women, and most of us don't pay attention to them, right? We're just talking about Ina or Anu, and we're talking about Enlil and Enki, but what about Ninhursag and Ninurna? And there's women. Well, these daughters, were from, like, Anu has one wife called Ki. Ki in that language means earth. So she was from the earth. Then he has another wife named Antu. Who's Antu? See, she's not from earth, she's from heaven. Heaven is the Orion Nebula. These are the serpent people, right? Well, it's not saying that they look like reptilians. It's saying that that blood was brought in from all around the galaxy. These angelic beings and their attributes were put into the genome of human beings so that we could grow. And by bringing these 12 attributes and putting them into us, we literally are adopted into the children of the living Father of heaven and earth. We are adopted as sons and daughters to our Father in heaven. See, the indigenous peoples that were on this earth, basically their evolution was sped up, and these 12 attributes from the gods were put into our genetic makeup. From the serpent who wound around, or the DNA, which comes from the Orion Nebula, which is this reptilian queen, they're calling it. She wasn't a reptilian. She's a queen from Orion, a human being who had gained attributes and a very powerful angelic race of beings, and their DNA was placed into ours. And they were incarnated into this realm to gain experience with us. And so there are the 12 tribes that came into the world and are living out their experiences on this earth. And so the 12 tribes don't just come from Sirius. They come from other handmaids that also married into Enki's, as part of Enki's wives. And then he gave birth, a part of Aduma's wives in this sense, because he put them into the genome. So Jacob then gives birth to 12 children that have different mothers from different planets. It's just representing the fact that all of the 12 children did not come from just one man. Didn't come from just the earth. It came from various other cultures and nations. Remember, Abraham has Keturah and Hagar and Sarah. Well, those are the three races. Keturah's from the east, and Hagar's from the south, and Sarah's from the north. See, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. There's the three groups of racial stock that Abraham begun. And this is just a story about the genetic progression of human beings. So, when Ezekiel sees this fire unfolding itself, he's seeing the Orion Nebula. And from that point, these attributes are born. And these are the different bodies and planets and races that exist from the Orion's belt all the way out to the end of the galaxy. And we're in this mix. And so you take and you draw a straight line from the Orion's belt over to Sirius. And we're part of this Sirius thing. And this Sirius is the same, has the same position if you took and draw a line on the three pyramids and you go to the city of Heliopolis, which was once called the city of On, which is the city of Anu. And this explains to you where Anu's throne really was. On one of the planets, Nibiru, in the Orion system, or I mean in the Sirius star system. And this is the temple, or a representation of the physical temple, where all of these 12 gates are, and these 12 deities with all these 12 attributes and natures came into the human genome, which is that serpent. And the serpent deceived us, or brought us into these lower and carnal natures to overcome. And we're overcoming this, and through an evolutionary process, and the end result is the book of Revelation, which says there's a great multitude, which no man was able to number, coming out of all the tribes, tongues, and nations. Everybody. It doesn't say part of the tribes, tongues, and nations, except this one nation, which is cursed. It doesn't say that. It says all tribes. Not just all the nations, but all the tribes, and all the languages, and all the tongues. Now think about it. It was this Jehovah that came down in the Tower of Babel and decided to scramble the languages. That was his decision. He didn't want us to gain knowledge and to reach heaven too fast. We were going a little faster than he thought we should, right? So he said, no more of this building towers to heaven. We're going to scramble them all up and send them all off one which way and the other and mix up their language. And there's going to be Babel, confusion, because he didn't like us. He was that one child, the one God that had this pride and it fell because he was that carnal nature. And so no wonder then today we've got all these religions. See, he's still at work. He doesn't want you to know the truth, so he's going to confuse you. And this is what we started off talking about at the beginning of this video. Is you're in one of these religions and you're like, I don't agree with that. See, I've got my own religion. Well, your neighbor's got another religion. And his neighbor's got another religion. And this is what's keeping you all confused. Is this Jehovah, who's divided the world up into all these languages, all these ways of thinking, and all these thought processes, and all these religions, and all these nations, and all these kingdoms. He sends Shem over here, and Ham over here, and Japheth over here, and this one's cursed, and that one's, he just doesn't want anybody to succeed. So here we are, human beings, we're going to succeed. The child's going to be born. Horus will be born from his own virgin mother into his own father. We're going to have this miraculous new birth. Christ is the new birth, the resurrection. 3 days and we're going to be born And each one of us have to have the Christ born in us. But this process is going to take time. But meantime, we've got to overcome this Marduk, the Jewish race, which is that one out of the 12, Judah, who, in Greek it's Judas. And so Judas represented Judah, who betrayed the Lord. So you see, your flesh, your ego is going to betray you. But you'll learn from it. And you'll conquer. And Judas is the one that's going to go out and hang himself. You see, because he's the one that's going to feel in the end, the karma is going to catch up to him. But it was only there as a test, as a trial for us. Because, when you exercise your muscles, you have to push against something to make them strong. So we had to go through the suffering to learn obedience, as our Lord Jesus learned obedience through the things he suffered. And in 2 Corinthians 3:18, it says that we're going to continue to move forward from glory to glory, even as is done by the Lord. See, Jesus did the same thing. He moves from glory to glory. He progresses, and this is what we're all going to do. There's a resurrection of the righteous and the unrighteous, and the resurrection of life and the resurrection unto judgment from the karma. Whatever you've done wrong, you have to be resurrected to experience the judgment or the karma of that life. And that's the other resurrection. But whoever overcomes and gets the first resurrection, the second death hath no authority. The second death is physical death. And then they go into the temple through one of the gates and they come out no more, it says in the book of Revelation. You go into the physical realm and you conquer all of these carnal forces and so forth, and you never die again. You come out no more. You don't go in and out through reincarnation after reincarnation, because the Bible says that one day we're going to attain and we will go out no more. And we'll continue to progress, but we won't have to die anymore. And that's heaven. So, friends, there's just a lot of things we could go into. Well, friends, I had to shut that off for a second and get my doggies. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close, guys. The sun's starting to come in through the window and it's going to be hard to see me. And I've already gone about an hour, so I'm going to split this up into 2 videos for you guys. So watch them both. Here's David Bose. You guys have a great week, and I'll see you tomorrow.